I called the recessed Nash County Commissioners meeting back together, and I would ask Ms. Wells if she would do an invocation for us.
Our Father, as we come together today to do the business of Nash County, God, may we listen to each other, and God, may we do what is right. Just be with us and keep us close to you. And bless each one in this room and give us a safe trip home. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Just to state the purpose of the meeting, if you recall, we had 5 items that have not been approved in our budget yet to allow staff to finish and present the budget on the 15th. The manager asked that we do that quick as possible, and we chose as a board to reconvene today at 4:30 to do that. If it's all right with everybody, I'm gonna follow the list as it is presented. First item on that list is and everybody has this spreadsheet, I'm sure. Okay. First item on the list is Nash Rocky Mount Schools, current expense, and I'm gonna explain to you, what my understanding of what this is. Wayne and myself, as chair and vice chair of the board, about a week and a half ago, met with the school board chair and vice chair at the school board chair's request, which of course was Ms. Wilson and Ms. Ann Edge. At that particular meeting, they went through their budget with us. They pointed out that they fully understood that they had been advised by our manager that their funding would be flat for the upcoming year, meaning we would fund it at the same amount on capital as well as current expense as we had this past year. And you know, the board somewhat took that position on the majority of the budget, if not all of the budget, simply because we knew we would be in a period of time when we had no growth in revenue to speak of anything. We were actually at one time expected a significant reduction in revenue. Fortunately, Mr. Belfield was correct and I was wrong, and I like to be wrong on decided I'm wrong on this time, and the revenue is almost the same as it has been, or the total assessed value was almost the same as it was the last 8 years. But still having the thought that it is still not a good item that this, good position this board's in, because to say that you have got the same total assessed value for the next 8 years that you had for the last 8 years is not a position that we've been put in before in Nash County, in certainly my time, or Mr. Lou's or Mr. Bellfield's time, either one, because we're used to having some bump in revenue during a reval year. This year we actually have got, is it 1.3 or 1.9% reduction?
About 1.3.
About a 1.3% reduction. So in effect, what you're saying is, with no growth moving forward, you got to use the same amount of money that you've used for the last 8 years. Fortunately, things look better in the economy, and we should be having some small increase in revenue or total assessed value by new items being added on. And we can only hope that, and of course this, you know, Nash County and Eastern North Carolina is not growing near the pace that the middle part of the state is growing. We're kind of in the same position that the western region is in, and it's slow growth, but certainly not going backwards anymore as it has in the past. And with that said, what the school system asked for, and I've talked to several of you about this because I think we had some misunderstanding, HB 13, which we all know was a House bill that was going to correct or alter a position that our legislators took last year, which was to require a reduction in class size in K through 3. That was going to be a pretty significant change to happen in 1 year, and the way the school systems and their lobbyists and association presented that was, to be able to do that, we're going to have to basically do away with all cultural art things in the schools. So we got a lot of teachers that are only qualified and certified to teach music, arts, and things of that nature that we won't need anymore, because we're going to have to take those teachers' positions and put them in K through 3. Apparently they made it known well enough that the General Assembly just last week backed up on that significantly, and they went from 24 changing from 24 to 16 to 18, from only 24 to 23 in 1 year, but it's only a 1 year change, and then it'd have to be looked at again. And if I state something wrong, please correct me, staff, or anybody that knows something different than what I know. But that's where I think we're at. So the school board chair made it very clear to Wayne and I that their request for money had nothing to do with HB 13, because they were going to take the position that HB 13 was going to happen, and the request or the current law to reduce the teachers in those grades was probably going to go away, so they didn't attempt to fund it, didn't attempt to put the money in there. What they did tell us that I want to make sure we all understand is, number one, they based their teacher costs moving forward on the proposed budget by our governor, which is the only one that has been published to date. That called for a 5% across the board teachers raise, and I think we all will admit, regardless of where we're at as it relates to partisan politics, that more than likely that's not going to happen. It will be somewhere between that and the 2% that the General Assembly has proposed. So I think there's some excess funds in their budget based on that assumption that they made. The second thing that they based their request on, and I'm going to explain their request, was the fact that they are indeed another time, which has happened more and more and more, going to have a reduction in total students next year of 250 students is what their projection is. We all know that funding for schools is based totally on the federal level as well as the state level on average daily attendance based on a certain time in the year, and I think that's some 60 days in. Donna, is that correct? Thereabout.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so by losing 250 students, they're gonna lose what the state gives them times 250, which was the equivalent of 14 teacher positions, is what we were explaining. Wayne, I left there totally understanding that their request was for us to fund 7 of those teachers, and they were gonna put the money up to fund the other 7, for a total of 14 additional, not additional teachers, but teachers that they wouldn't be able to fund because of the lost revenue. When we actually got their request the night that we met with them, the 7 that they asked us to fund was still in there, which is $361,000. The 7 that they were gonna fund somewhere got kind of dropped. So I think they decided maybe they either didn't need them 7 teachers or they couldn't fund them 7 teachers. I won't venture to guess which way it was, but that part went away. In all fairness, I want to also point out that this board decided last year, when the chair kind of put his foot in his mouth at our last meeting, and quite frankly, I wasn't the chair then, Mr. Belfield, you were, but I made a point of why the school board chose not to put the money up to give the bonuses to those non-paid, non-state paid, non-teaching positions that Edgecombe County did. We as a board got them to figure that amount. It's about $160,000 what it would cost to do that. We decided we would give them half of that money, and we asked it, but did not demand that they put the other part up, because I'll just speak as chair now. I don't think this board is in a position to tell the school board where to spend their money. The law doesn't allow us to do that, and we really can't put strings on it. We can certainly make our wishes known, which is the way we handled it. I think Mr. Outlaw actually asked me one day if we could just put that as a requirement, and he totally understood that we probably shouldn't do that simply because we're not allowed to do that. So we gave them the $80,000 with anticipation and hoped that they put the $80,000 up. In the end, they chose to put $20,000 up. So those particular employees got a $1,000 bonus versus a $1,600 bonus, which is what everybody else got. They had a matrix the way they spent their money, but in the end, they didn't quite meet our expectation on that, and I kind of feel the same way in that they didn't meet the expectation that I certainly, and I won't speak for Mr. Outlaw, understood they were going to do by doing 14 teachers and 7 and 7. So with all of that said, now we've been requested to change our current expense up by $361,000 to pay for 7 teachers. I also want to make sure the board understands that because we keep their funding flat, we are actually have increased for many years looking back their per student allocation because we haven't reduced our current expense based on the number of students that they got like the state and federal government has. So we've been giving them more money all along, the way most people think, along revenue going to schools, which is along the per student basis. So in effect, we've actually been giving them more money each year, and our projection for next year, again, will be more money than they got last year based on per student allotment. So with that said, we've got a request for the $361,000, all that stuff I just pointed out. Anybody got any questions on that first? I know it was a whole lot, but I want that there was some misunderstanding beginning about HB 13. I want to make sure the board knows that that wasn't a request to help with that. Actually, Wendy talked to me yesterday or day before to make sure I made that clear to the board. Ms. Wells?
Well, there's one thing that, and I understand that, I know it's a lot of money, and I don't think, I'm not saying we give them $361,000. I mean, but I would love to see us give them part of it, if we can canvas that, because with the teachers, you gotta have teachers to teach your children, and as you said, we can't tell them how to use the money, but I think it's showing that we trust them enough that we will help pay for some of that. I don't think we should pay for $361,000. I'd say half of it, maybe.
Well, that's what I came in here today in my mind, to do half of it.
I got what y'all saying, but I think it's a requirement of this board when we do something to be able to state why we did it. Why are we doing it, and where did the half number come from? Ms. Wells?
Okay, I will say why I'm doing it, and I'm for all these other things. Main thing is we got to educate our children. That's our responsibility. I think that if they need 7 teachers, and if, let's say we would do 3 of them, that they come up with the other 3 to educate the children, because for all these other things, and y'all know I love the community college, but we ain't gonna need a community college, we don't have students to go to it. So we gotta have teachers to teach the students. And I just think that would also be sure that we have good faith, not that we're gonna throw money away, and we're just asking them to be very frugal with their money. But I just think that there is a responsibility, not that we got to do it, but there is a responsibility that we help educate our children.
And one thing I forgot to say, I always want the board to understand when we are allotting money, whether it's one-time expenditure or reoccurring expenditure. And in my thought, if you're giving more money to pay teachers, it is a reoccurring expense. Ms. Wood, do you agree with that? Okay. Mr. Lamb? This would be reoccurring, would it not? Or should be?
Any increase would be reoccurring, generally speaking. I mean, that wouldn't, the way the statute was written is you can't go below the 16-17 level.
That's right.
So as long as you maintain that level, and we should be getting that agreement back this week.
Right.
Next week.
And what Mr. Lamb referred to, of course, is the fact that in our change with our relationship with school funding, we have to keep the funding the same as it was last year.
This figure right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Mr. Belfield, you want to add your thoughts?
Yes, well, if they need 7 teachers, to keep, especially in the areas of art, physical education, then I certainly would support, as I said earlier, at least funding half of that.
And I want to make sure the board understands, I don't think this money has anything to do with arts or music. It is strictly
Classroom teachers.
Right.
Well,
That part of it has been resolved by the General Assembly.
okay, but still that, if they need money for 7 additional, I mean, to maintain 7 teachers, I still think that we ought to fund half of it.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I'm real thick, and I need for y'all to help me a little bit.
Okay.
This $361,000, is it since the bill didn't pass, your classroom size is gonna stay about the same. Is it really $361,000 to pay teachers with, or is it really to help fund the proposed salary increases? And that's what I just can't quite get. Because if, you know, you're looking at 6.5% administrator salary increase, if that's got anything to do with part of it, that's a pretty big raise for the top, I think. You know, teachers I sympathize with, but then I read this retirement increase, 16.67%. Has anybody ever had that much of an increase in their retirement? And I can't.
I did one year about 11 years ago.
Well, that was a good year.
One K, but it ain't that much. Then I lost all
That's
that.
where I can't quite wrap my head around. If the classroom size ain't changing, then I don't know what we need 361,000. I'm, like I say, I ain't real smart, but
Well, Dan,
I'm just thinking.
you know, to answer your question, they gonna present the request in a manner that it is hardest for this board to deny. Certainly, if they didn't get the increases that you just pointed out, that money could be used to fund these 7 teachers. But I'm only telling you what the piece of paper said that we got, which was to fund teacher positions.
Somewhere you got.
But
to
in
read
reality,
between the lines.
it's all a lot of money, and yeah, you're right.
Am I right, or am I, you know, am I thinking
You're
right, or
right.
am I thinking wrong?
Well, you're right, you're thinking absolutely right.
All right.
Well, if we are funding for teachers, that's where the money should go. I mean, yeah, I mean, and they ought to have, well, I don't use that word, they ought to be smart enough. If we are funding them, they got up here for 7 teacher positions. If we fund 3 of them, then that money, that's where it needs to go. And we ought to track it.
But we're not allowed to.
Well, you can still track it. We're not allowed to tell them what they
Yeah.
ought to do, but we could still track it.
Well,
And
you'd
it
have to
could,
get them
and
to-
it could have an effect on their budget in the future. If they don't do what it was appropriated for.
Aren't we in fact, aren't we in fact giving them, by maintaining a flat budget with a population decrease of 250 students, aren't we in fact giving them an increase of over $300,000?
Well, if I take the $1,507, which was
Well,
what
that's
we
more,
gave them
I
last year.
used 1347.
Well, last year it was 1,507. We're giving them $376,750 more than they got last
So
year.
they're getting more than they requested simply by the fact that the population has decreased.
That's the fact. If you.
That has been the fact for a number of years.
Well, they gave us a graph in the meeting that showed it's been the fact for the last 6 years.
So my position is they have got enough money just from a decline in their population to cover all 7 of those teachers, if that is in fact what they want the money for. And I totally agree with you that it is not our right or our authority or responsibility to tell them how to spend their money.
But I'm like you, Wayne, 250 reduction in the number of students, why do you need 7 more teachers for 250 less students?
The state determines the number of teachers that they need based on the population at a point in time, which I think we said is like a month or 2 in.
2 months
So
in.
the state has determined the number of teachers that they need. If they need more teachers, I don't know what they would use them for.
You got 250 less. That's
They're
what I
getting
don't
less
know.
money based on the population, student population from the state, but they're maintaining a local.
That's right.
Well, it's a
Well-
continued shift for education expense to the local level is what's been going on.
That's right.
By the way the program's designed. But now we haven't had to continue, now currently, under this last law we did, we do have to keep the funding level the same. But up to that point, we could have always adjusted it if this board chose to.
But we've never chosen to.
But we never
Right.
chose to. And our requirement now is we've got to match that number of that given year.
If they lose 1,000 students, which they won't, but if they lose 250 for the next 4 years, another 1,000 students.
Right,
That will just increase the per pupil spending for the remaining students.
right,
Because we will continue to fund at the same level.
correct, which is what's been going on.
Exactly.
Any other comments? I don't know nothing to do, but.
All right, those, let's say 250 students, some of them most likely probably would be going to charter school. Some
Well, that
may-
don't
Some
change
may
it.
be home.
Yeah, the ones that go to charter school doesn't
Still
change
the same
anything for
amount.
us. We get that money comes from the state anyway.
Yeah, yeah, but I know that.
Yeah, it's the
But,
ones that move out, go to
it-
charter school, or go to a private school or a homeschool.
Yeah,
Move out the area, homeschool or a private school. See, now keep me straight. Am I missing anything?
The charter school allocation, which is about 1.4 million, actually does come out of local funds.
True.
Yeah, comes out of local funds. Other things y'all said is absolutely true. No matter what the amount, you gotta give them the amount you gave them this year. Whatever amount y'all give them, they can use them for local position raises, they can use them for new teachers, they
And
can
they can
use
use
them
them
for
for administrative costs.
they can use it for whatever they want to. The 250 student, that would be about 12, 13, 14 teachers from state funds
Mhm.
allocated that they will lose, but they'll have less students, so.
Well, I think the numbers they presented are pretty accurate. I did some analysis of that. They came up with 14 teachers. That's a realistic number, I think, based on the 250 students.
And also, the capital is actually going down because of the lottery money, so that's gonna end up being about 1.3 million.
But it's tied to lottery.
Yeah,
Okay.
or 1.4 million,
Right.
yeah. No, the 400,000 we were giving them for
Sure.
3 straight years, we don't have that anymore. We've
Right.
depleted the lottery fund, so,
What he's speaking of there is 3 years ago, we chose to give them $400,000 a year for 3 years for increased security at the schools when they changed all these doors and this and that. We gave it to them out of lottery funds. It was, until the lottery funds were replenished that we had, and that has happened is what we're saying. Of course, we fulfilled the 3-year commitment that we had. Any other thoughts? Is the board, I mean, the only thing I know to do is take these one at a time and have it voted on. Ms. Richardson? excuse me.
Yes, I just want to say concerning this the school, now you know that's always been my priority. But I'm getting a little bit disenfranchised with them, that way they're handling things, because, okay, they asked us to do the 80, and they were supposed to match it, they didn't. Now they came up with the 14 teachers, all of a sudden it broke it down to 7, given passed to us. So, look like to me that we're getting a little bit shifted, and, I mean, I believe in doing what's right, but they're not doing us right on this. I love my children, but it's not the children's fault. But, I mean, we're not equaling this out, to me, to balance it, to make it work the way it's supposed to be. Because, to me, when they said they're gonna do the 7 and we do 7, okay, if you break it down, well, we don't need but 7, okay, you do 3, we do 3, something. But don't drop it all on the counter to do, so.
And the fact we really don't know where that money's gonna be spent, Ms. Richardson,
Right.
bothers me. I can't wrap my head around it.
And you can't say, I know where I would like for it to go, cause see, I'm getting calls, I have gotten 3.
If you want
About the bus
School
drivers.
bus drivers, yes.
They're not getting no increase. Now, if those drivers don't get those students to school, what's gonna happen? And I
Did you say
asked
to me that you talked to?
I asked the superintendent about
the other
that,
night?
and he told me, no, they were not in the budget.
To get any increase?
Right.
They're not in here either.
No, and I asked him over at the meeting last
That
week,
is, but yeah.
They're not in
and I
here.
thought, that's just not right. So,
Anything else? All right, Ms. Wells made a request to fund half of it. That seems to be what's on the table. I would ask, a show of hands of who wants to fund half to $361,000. I
That
got
would be what?
two, are you still
Yeah,
thinking, Mr. Richards?
180.
$180,000, $180,500.
You don't know where it's gonna be spent.
Yeah,
181.
well, no, we don't, but we can't punish the children for that.
Ms. Richardson, did you vote for that or not?
Yes,
for that?
I
You voted for
can, I
that.
can accept that. I don't like it per se, but
Okay. Oh, that
I wish they would work
motion
with
fails,
us.
4-3. Any other conversation on that item? I'm gonna move to Nash Community College current expense. I'm gonna give you a little dialogue on that one too, if you don't mind. When the community college first presented their budget this year, my number, that I recall was, it was approaching about a $600,000 increase. We pretty quickly, let them know that probably was not gonna happen. The manager also individually let the president of community college, Dr. Carver, know that we intended on, funding the community college flat this year as well. When we met with them the other night, they had pared that request down from about 600,000 to 120,000. $120,000 is 25,000 of it, which I deem not to be reoccurring, would be to help replace a security camera. If you remember the words we used, it was, their cameras now were so old, they were still using a VCR, thank you. It's been so long since I used that, I couldn't remember. VCR recorder. And so that's what that 25,000 is. They're asking for 25 of the $40,000 cost. I make the assumption that they're gonna put 15 in it. The 95,000 that goes with that, operations and maintenance, incurred expense. My memory is, and I certainly can be corrected on this, was, it says here operating and maintenance. I thought it was to fund increases for locally paid positions. Why do I think that?
That was part of it.
That's operations.
That's operations, okay, that's operations.
I think it
But
was
that's
like
where the bulk
18
of
employees.
the bulk of that money was, is because, again, they were expecting the state employees to get, an increase, and they needed the money to match that for the local positions, which the local positions, in my thinking, is gonna have to be in maintenance and operations of facilities. Is the only local position we have at community college. Is that correct, Mr. Lane?
I think he said the other night it was custodians,
Right.
things like that.
But
yeah.
people that maintain the facilities.
Right.
Which is gonna be maintenance staff, lawn maintenance staff, custodians, and the likes. And that was where that dollar figure came from my memory of what he presented the other night. I will say, it appeared like to me, they put forth more effort this year to communicate and work with the commissioners than they have in the past. Always in the past, it seemed like we were just, kind of, I won't use the word shafted, I use the word
I did.
ignored when we let them know about what funding we had available. I think this year, they heard us a lot better. It certainly went from 600 to 120. The 95 would be reoccurring, the 25 would not be reoccurring. So that's what I know about that. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions
Yeah,
on
well,
that or entertain thoughts
I
on
got
it.
one on how did they drop from 600 and some $1,000 down to this? What did they leave out?
Oh, they didn't leave out anything, Mr. Belfield, you recall, and I should have, covered this again, I apologize, but in the bond money, this board had requested them from day one to put aside 1.7 million of that to use long-term
Yeah, I
maintenance.
remember that, I remember.
They had
that.
chose to only put 1 million to start with, then they moved it up to 1.2. And now they have moved it all the way up to the 1.7, which is the reason I say it looks like they're making a concentrated effort to work with this board better than they have in the past. So that's where it came from 600, originally back down to 120 now.
So it's the
mainly
bond
the
money,
fact
the bond money that's
it's
dropped it
been
down.
used for long-term maintenance needs rather than for, capital improvements now, and that altered our budget for the vet tech building, where they have basically got to find another $500 to $600,000 out of private funds than they had already projected to raise to build that building with. Ms. Wells, Mr. Outlaw, is that factual? I hope?
That is correct.
Okay,
Sounds good.
okay. Comments on that particular item from any board member?
Well, I tell you, I think they've made an effort to work with us.
They're doing
They've
good.
shown a strong commitment to work with us this year. They've stepped up to the plate with $1.7 million from that NC Connect money. If they had not, I believe I would be correct in saying that we would end up with that expense out of the county budget. At some point, we would
Well,
probably
we know
have to
last year,
have.
when the air conditioning quits and there's no money there for it to be fixed, we certainly gonna step in and fix it. We got to. We have no
Absolutely.
choice.
Well, they understand
I
that.
appreciate the fact that they have recognized that, they've worked with us, and I think their request is reasonable.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I agree with that, but I also thinking back to last year, when we appropriated some money for maintenance, and it wasn't necessarily used on maintenance, so is there a way that we can keep them accountable?
Are you talking about the money we gave them
Set
a year or so
aside.
back? We set
Mhm.
aside that they misunderstood and used it for general deferred maintenance items, capital items? Yeah.
Well, you know, we had a period of years there, maybe 2 years, that we, instead of giving them the money, we put it in a capital reserve fund for the community college and just made them come back to us another time and ask us. I think we decided that was okay, but maybe not the smartest thing to do. Why do we change that?
They actually.
They were gonna spend it regardless.
They used it like they did the 250, so
Right.
it really, it was all in the same pot as far as they were concerned,
Right, okay.
instead of building a reserve.
I think they've realized now though that when they spent that wrong and it's come back, I think their eyes have been open and said, you know, we gotta spend it now for what we're asking for.
Gotcha.
And I think you can see that, don't you, Wayne?
I definitely do.
All right, any other thoughts on that one?
And I'll tell you that the community college maintains a ledger for what they spend their capital dollars on. And I think it would be in our best interest, as we did recently, to meet with them at some frequency and just continue a dialogue so we continue to build that relationship. And they can provide that information and show you what they spend these dollars for.
You know, as they draw down the money, they give us invoices.
So you've already got it?
Yeah, we get that.
Well, I know it's pretty detailed in the report that we get at our board meetings.
It is.
Wayne has made a statement that he would like to see us fund that. Wayne, you're speaking of the whole amount of the 120,000.
Yes, I think it's $2,095,000 and 275,000 on the capital line.
Right, total, that's correct.
Right.
Which is an increase of
About
120,000
120.
total.
185 also on the current.
Current expense is 95, isn't it?
I've got 95, 185.
Right, 185, yeah, 95, that's 120,000, 185.
Yeah.
Increase.
I use the word about, but that's
Yeah.
correct.
Yes, I would offer that in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
All right, I got a motion and a second to fund those two items for the community college. Any questions? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is Gateway Center. Their request is for an additional $8,254. Janet just gave you a formula computation, the way that is calculated each year. And I believe Mr. Outlaw asked for this at maybe a meeting or two ago. But you see there that this formula has been used ever since Gateway was put in place about 17 years ago. And it's based on tax base and population. what you do is take the total tax base of the 5 entities that are paying money. You get the total of it, and then based on what each one is, you get a percentage for that. You do the same thing with population. You put that in a matrix, and that's the way that the funding is derived at. You'll see down under that, Nash County currently has for the projected for the next year, 44% of that, and you see down the line. That's why you're gonna see that number move up and down a little bit. I guess it's good that Nash County is climbing this year, so that basically means either our population went up at a higher rate than the other entities did, or our total assessed value went up because of new items coming into the county and been put on the tax books. So it may be a little bit of a curse, but it's really a big blessing if you look at the whole picture. Any questions on how that formula is derived at?
Just correct a mistake. We got this from Gateway, and where it says 15-16 request,
That's correct.
it should be 16-17.
17, that's right.
She used
And
the
Donna-
prior year's form.
Yeah, she pointed that out too, and I forgot to make that correction. Well, I had already run them when I got here, quite frankly.
So in essence, they're asking for $8,254 more dollars under the formula.
Everybody see how that works now? Mr. Outlaw?
What happened in Nashville? Did their assessed values go down, or population go down, or,
I'm not sure I understand the question yet.
well,
I'll tell you what that was.
I tell you, they
Nashville-
dropped from 20 to 16,000, so something,
It was their first year, and it was a,
you mean
flat
last
amount.
year was their first year?
Or either the year before.
Yeah,
Okay.
they came to the Gateway and said, we want to give you $20,000
Okay, I got
to
you.
be on the board.
I got you.
Instead of using the formula. You're right, I remember that now.
Okay. that
And now they're
explains-
being converted to.
So
the
they're now
formula.
falling into the formula.
If
Okay.
you see the note down there, it says Nash County, Edgecombe County, City of Rocky Mount deducted a prorated share of Nashville additional payment to join the executive committee.
I got you, I understand.
Any other questions on that? I am, well, I'm not gonna tell you how I feel about it, because I don't think that's right, but I understand the formula, the number that comes from the formula, so it's not an increased request from Gateway. It's the same amount of money they'll get, but who pays the money gets shifted a little bit based on the formula. And really, like I said before, if our part goes up, there's a reason for it, and it's a good it's good for Nash County that it went up.
Does this not show that, I mean, they're actually working, recruiting for us too, that we'll get more than this back in tax money if these businesses come to Nash County? So, you know, it's,
Well,
we're
that-
putting this
that-
out, but we could get.
Right.
Four
What you're
times
saying,
more
Ms.
back.
Wells, is what makes the formula make us pay more money. Because when what they recruit in Nash County goes on the books,
Yeah.
it
Right.
moves us up in what we pay.
If they come, we'll get it back, but I don't
No
guess we.
no question, and our rate may go up, our part may go up a little bit more next year, if
But
indeed
that
they're
would be
coming to Nash
frustrating.
County. But, I mean, it could happen that if all of the, intermobile goes on Edgecombe County books in 1 year, and we didn't pick up anything, it may shift back some.
They're gonna go up.
Yeah, actually, last year, ours went down some, if I remember right.
They're not just
Don, am I
arbit,
right on that?
That's correct.
Okay.
they're not just arbitrarily asking for more money.
Right.
No, the
They're,
mon-
they're
the total
providing
amount.
sound logic and a
Okay.
formula
Because of the
supporting
Yep, yep.
that dollar amount.
Okay.
And we're also getting great benefit from this group right now, anyway.
Can I have a motion to approve or disapprove that?
I offer motion to approve
Moved by Mr. Bellfield,
the request.
Second.
second by Ms. Barnes. No questions on that motion. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is Brownsville Library. We did not resolve that at our retreat. They're asking for $17,015 more, which is a 2% increase, and I'm assuming the number came from the fact that it was 2%. I really believe that's a leftover item from about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, when we did an overall reduction in our budget due to the economy of 2% and all nonprofits and other funding agencies, as well as all departments got an automatic 2% reduction in funding. And it was actually before Mr. Lamb's time and before Ms. Wood's time as well. But I think this is basically trying to get that 2% back, is what I understand it is.
Took it away and get it back.
Right, they've made the request, they have made the request before. You got on the sheet behind that what each entity that is included in the library or pays for the library pays. There have been some questions in the past of that percentage, and whether it's fair or not. I did, after about 3 years of requesting it, get a utilization number chart that showed me where the people that used the library came from. And surprisingly to me, it was pretty close to what the current percentages are. I thought it would be more off than it was. I don't have those numbers with me, don't remember exactly. I'll just say it was within 10% of those percentages where the utilization came from. So we do have quite a few people that live outside of Rocky Mount in Nash County that utilize that library more than I would have
A
anticipated.
lot of school children.
I guess it's maybe school children. But thoughts on that item?
And especially, we're north of Nashville on out through Red Oak. And
I would
I know,
also,
when I go by there, I constantly see people from out here from Nash County that I know. And I'm pretty sure it's probably some that I don't. So
And-
they're using it in
yeah.
quite a bit.
Mr. Lamb is on that board. If there's no question of commissioners, I'm gonna ask him to give his take of 2 cent worth on this.
Yeah.
2% worth on this
2%.
vote.
Yeah, I think if you look at the numbers, the Nash County, including Rocky Mount, mostly utilizes that library. The fact we get 11% from Edgecombe, when they have their own library system, is sort of like icing on the cake for that library, which I'm glad they're part of it. I do know that the city of Rocky Mount has put it in their budget, according to Steve Raper, but I believe it's subject to us also going up by 2%.
Don't know about Edgecombe.
I do not know about Edgecombe.
Keep in mind, as always, we fund numerous agencies. We had stated to basically all of them that it would be a flat funding year. And when you put a crack in that top, you bring on more conversation and I'll be quiet.
Well, using the formula which we received, what should their funding be based on this formula? If you just use this formula, what should their funding be? Forget what they're getting.
Well, Mr. Outlaw, there is no formula. The number that you see percentage-wise comes from what we're funding.
If you, all right, but you're basing it on population and registrants? Is that what you're basing on?
No.
What are we basing it on?
That number,
Population.
that number, did it start with population? I don't think so.
We got that information from them.
Well, here's what I need to understand. We
It can't be
fund,
population.
we fund 52%, somewhere around 52.
Right.
Rocky Mount funds around 37, and Edgecombe either funds around 12 or less. What is the formula for determining that funding? Was that just arbitrary, or what determined that?
That was sent to Donna and I believe distributed. Do you have that with you?
I want to say it was based on a population number, but I,
And I think, if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if the Rocky Mount people were double counted.
I think they
No,
are.
the Rocky Mountain people are, it looks like they're broken out.
Probably that 11% is a rock.
I'm thinking that's
It's
the
not
deal.
fair they would use it.
I-
Like those out Tarver,
Funding.
right there.
I think it's only the,
It was,
Well, let's,
yeah, we can go,
that's what she sent me.
Okay, this says here, the managers of the City of Rocky Mountain, Nash, and Edgecombe have adopted the following funding formula. It is based on an average of real registrants and potential users. So using that formula, where is that formula?
I don't think she actually gave me.
Well, that's, all I wanna know is what would it be with
I
that formula?
understand. I have never asked that
And
question. I don't know.
whatever it is, I'll support that, if it's 60%.
Yep.
I can contact the library
well,
director.
you,
Don't you have it right there?
she sent everything we needed, because it was in our packet, our board packet.
Oh, here it is, I'm sorry. It is, there's a service population and the registrants.
That's what I just,
Yes, I
asked.
apologize. Yeah, so
and it
that's
shows we're 51%.
34 and 14.
Yeah, we're 51, Rocky Mountain is 35, and Edgecombe is 14. So what is 51% of the total 17-18 budget that they're requesting?
51%, 51.69% of the what, 17-18?
51% of the 17-18 budget request from the library.
Based on the prior year breakdown percentage,
Now, don't they have a proposed budget for 17-18?
right, 51.69%, the same percentage breakdown as the prior year. They took the current year and went 2% greater.
That
The
ain't
the total budget's at, $1,678,863.
all I'm saying, based on the formula, we should be funding 51%. So
of that
what is
total.
51% of that total?
It's, $850,788.45. Which is almost exactly what we paid them last year, what we put in last year.
Okay? I mean, whatever it is, I mean, it's a formula. If that's what we're actually using, that's what we should be funding.
Let me back up. I did, that number I just gave you is not correct.
It's $856,220.
No, you gotta use the $1,678,000,
That's what it is.
okay?
Maybe I did it wrong.
678,000.
Times 51, you say 51%.
51.69.
No.
51 points.
51.15 is the exact
50.
average.
Okay,
1.15.
all right, well, that number's good,
It won't, I
51.5.
won't,
It's possible that in the past, one jurisdiction gave an increase and one didn't.
say
And therefore, that's
51.15.
why it's not, or it's, the numbers change each year.
51.15. Well, does Edgecombe and the city of Rocky Mount agree with this formula?
We won't know the answer.
I mean, all I'm saying, I'm not trying to make a big deal out of this. All I'm saying is that they've given us a formula. It would make it real simple going forward to determine what their allocation should be. It wouldn't be an arbitrary, give me a 2%. You would have, based on a formula, you would provide funding.
That would
So,
change
but if
each
we're the
year.
only ones that are buying into this formula, and then we're providing more funding than the formula calls for, I mean, that just don't seem,
You get 858,730 then.
So my calculator won't do figures that big or something. It just don't, I can't get it to work.
It's $858,730.
Right down.
78,863.
51.15.
What'd you get, 858?
Yes, sir.
738. Okay, that's what I had, then it's got a.
Now the comments on this item.
So instead of 17,000, we're doing what, about 8?
I'm not saying what we do, I'm just saying if you're gonna provide a formula, and you're gonna fund to that formula, then, fund to the formula.
All right, I had a board member, other than Ms. Richardson, asked me to make this meeting last about 30 minutes if possible.
You're not gonna get your wish.
So what we want to do with this?
She said, don't blame it on her.
I said other than Ms. Richardson,
Thank
not
you.
Ms. Richardson, another board member. Quite frankly, it's the one talking, so,
You talking to me?
no, me, I'm talking about me.
Well, you ain't got two more things to do.
At the 51.15.
Mhm.
Mr. Lamb, did we advise the library also that funding this year would most likely be flat?
I told them that at the board meeting, that, other agencies were
Flat.
tentatively flat.
Okay.
Well, I still go back to my half on this.
According to the formula, we're overfunding it already.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't be, you
Instead of
wouldn't be
the
next
seven,
year.
instead of the 17,000, I'd give them 9,000.
About 8.
Here's,
Well, my only problem with that is, I really like to have a reason for why we do
Well-
something other than a half or something.
here's what I
I
recommend.
think it's needed. That's my reason.
Okay.
It's needed.
They do
And,
lots of things.
And it's 51%.
Okay. Mr.
Well,
Outlaw.
I just say, I wonder if Edgecombe has bought into a 14%, since they've been around the 11, 12%.
They have
Probably not.
not in a long time.
Yeah.
At one time, since I've been a commissioner, they were funding at the level that the formula gave them, but they haven't in a number of years.
I think one of the first things we need to do is, if this is the formula, we need to get agreement on the formula.
Oh, I think we got agreement on the formula. We
Has
just hadn't followed.
Rocky Mountain and Edgecombe, have they
Well,
agreed?
they did at one time. That's what y'all read that it came from.
Then I would recommend, as we did with the Gateway, that we fund to the formula, the 51.15%.
And that would be,
Is that
instead
contingent
of
upon the,
17.
That would be contingent upon Edgecombe and Rocky Mount funding to the formula.
and if they don't do it, what do we fund them?
I guess we fund them what we have been funding.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm gonna explain the motion. Mr. Outlaw says we have a formula.
I mean, hey, you guys disagree or got heartburn with that, I
Well-
mean, jump in there. I mean,
Tell me what that
Yeah.
figure is
I'm gonna give a chance to do that. That figure would be,
total.
well, it depends on,
You're talking about the,
it would be somewhere around between $7,000 and $8,000 more dollars. than what we got.
858, 738.
that, yeah,
858,
that's,
738.
that's exact, that's what I'm talking about.
Which is-
And you get,
Well, it's
It's
about half
half
of
of-
it, Freddie. You
it
got
is
what you wanted, but we got
about
a
half.
reason for it, is what I'm.
Right.
yeah, well, I sit here and figured it out.
Okay. Well, you didn't state that
79.99
then.
additional.
Okay.
That'd be
79.99.
That's it, $79.99.
Well, I'm not gonna use a number. I'm gonna let y'all come up with a number in the motion. The motion was, that Mr. Outlaw made was that we would be willing to fund it at the current agreed upon formula if the other two agencies agree to fund it at the current agreed upon formula. If they do not agree to do that we would fund it what we funded last year. Is that what I heard?
Yes, sir.
That's the motion on the floor, made by Mr. Outlaw. Is there a second to that motion?
Unread this.
I'm gonna give you a chance to
Okay.
discuss in a second. Is there a second to that motion? I'll second the motion. Questions on the motion?
Yeah, in funding on the basis of the formula, we're still talking about, instead of $17,000, we're still talking about, increase of $9,000, $16.
I think they
Which
said
would be
$79.99.
$858,600 $738.
Yeah, with the difference is $79.99.
What the consensus was that we would increase the current year by $7,999 based on the formula.
And I would ask y'all to
Round it out at
set an amount certain and let us explore this for next year. If we wait until Edgecombe and Rocky Mount makes adjustments or whatever, it would just be simpler for us if we, using the formula, our percentage of the formula, that means the difference is between Rocky Mount and Edgecombe. So it shouldn't affect us.
But the motion I got
Yeah,
from Mr. Lamb is that we use the formula if the other two use the formula. If they do not, which you can take that as a firm number, add your 7,999 to it.
Right.
That's your number.
If
Right.
the other
If
two,
the other two do not, you would fund it at the current level. If either one of the other two do not, you'd fund it at the current level.
yeah, and what I would ask you is to, you know, our formula is based on 51.15,
right,
Nash County.
which is subject to change year to year.
Right, but the remaining amount of 48.85%, where that adjustment is between Rocky Mount and Edgecombe. So what you're really saying is we won't, if we require all three to go with the formula exactly, then Edgecombe's amount is gonna go up, you know, $10,000 or so, more than that, I'm sorry. And Rocky Mounts would go down. It wouldn't affect our number. So what I'm saying is, for this year, let's do 51.15, the 858,738, and work with them to next year, just like the Gateway is doing this year, adjust, not just do a 2% increase like they're doing this year, but each year to readjust the percentages based on the formula that we're using.
I've got a motion on the floor that I need to dispose of with a second, which doesn't do what you're asking to do. You're saying set the number this year without considering what the other two agencies do.
Let's go 51.15 this year, and in the future, get them to readjust this each year based on the formula, like the
To be
Gateway
able to
does.
do that, I've either got to have an amended motion or I've got to dispose of the motion on the table.
Mr. Chair, I offer an amendment to the motion that's on the floor, that we use the formula 51.15%.
And you're stopping right there.
Yeah, that we use that formula.
Okay.
And that, yeah. isn't that
Without,
correct?
about next
without consideration of what the other agencies are doing.
Right.
All right,
So
I've
this
got to
year.
now move to the amended motion. Is there a second
Now,
to
wait
the
a minute,
amended
I
motion?
need to hear that amended motion again.
The amended motion is, the first part of your motion,
Just before you
The same.
state it, let me state, if we'd have been following this formula last year, we wouldn't have funded but 842,000.
correct?
That's-
Yep.
Okay, what was the motion?
The motion is on the table, the amended motion on the table is that, we would fund it at the, as the formula reads for this coming year, regardless of what the other two agencies do, which would make us fund it at the level that we currently funded at, plus the $7,999, whatever that number is.
You're gonna really fund it at that 51.15%.
Period.
Well,
That's correct.
no, not really. Because if the other two don't
Don't fund
fund
it.
properly, then it, like last year,
I say we just.
if we'd have been funding properly, we would have provided 841, and we actually did what,
850.
850.
Mr. Belfield, I'm gonna ask you to clarify your motion. Is your motion based on what the projected revenue what the requested revenue is for the library for this coming year?
Well, my amendment is based on the funding formula that we have here,
Times what? Is my question.
51.5% of,
Right, but am I
of
using what their budget ends up?
what they request.
Okay, but am I using what they end up with getting funded, or am I using what they're requesting from the three agencies? I think the answer is what they're requesting from the three agencies is what you want to say.
Yeah,
That'll get you to your 79.90.
Right,
right.
okay.
And let me, what I believe, the reason the funding formula has been is out of kilter.
Because the Edgecombe hasn't been funding their part.
They froze theirs
Yeah,
years
right.
that the other two,
Okay.
or at least Rocky Mount. Ours is only a little bit off, maybe 0.5%. Rocky Mounts is off 2.5%. So, and Edgecombe is
Well, it's the
3% less than
So
there
we
should
can
be.
look out.
What you're
So we
saying
need to go
validates
back.
what Mr. Outlaw's concern is.
Right. I understand.
All right, Mr. Outlaw, you cleared on the amended motion. It's using the number that they are requesting for that total budget this year.
51.15%.
Now that number.
And
Is there a second to that motion? It dies for, the amended motion dies for lack of a second. I'm back to the original motion, and I already have a second on that motion. Is there any questions on that motion? I'll restate the motion. Any questions, Ms. Barnes?
so they didn't specifically say why they were requesting the 2% increase, other than we're thinking it's because we cut them a couple years ago?
I think they're
Yes.
asking for 2%.
Just arbitrarily?
Based on the current year appropriations between the three entities, not based on the formula, but based on the current year appropriation, they've added 2%.
Ms. Barnes, I made that statement based on the fact that in years past, they have asked in their budget request for that 2% back. It hadn't been granted yet, so it is an assumption on my part that it comes from that, the mentality of it.
Right.
Rosemary.
I didn't know if there was a
I
need.
think that's it too. I think she even mentioned briefly in her presentation a
She
month
did. She actually
ago
mentioned in the presentation that,
that
they
she
got
was
cut
looking for that 2% back.
2 years ago, so I'm certain that's what the number came from.
That's what I think it is
Looks like
too.
we've been providing our 2%,
What we
looks
had.
like.
But you know, they provide all this
I
stuff for all
recommend
the
keeping it flat.
libraries that's out of the county. They don't go to Edgecombe County to put books and bookmobile
So
and
that's
things
what
like
you gonna
that.
do, 'cause
But they do
Edgecombe ain't gonna
to
raise
Nash
theirs
County. You got Middlesex,
$10,000.
Bailey,
If they
Springhurst,
don't come to the
Whitaker.
formula, then it reverts back.
I got a motion on the floor, and I have a second to that motion. That motion is that we
You understand? That's what we do.
fund it at 51.15% based on the number that they're asking for in total, contingent upon the other two agencies providing their part of the formula. If they do not provide their part of the formula, we go back to what we allotted this past year. All in favor of that motion, raise your hand. That motion carries. Donna, you straight on what we did? Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is,
What's that, 5 to 2?
that was 5-2. Well, with Mr. Belfield and Ms. Wells voting. I guess I should say those in opposed to the motion. Mr. Belfield, Ms. Wells, y'all both were opposed.
I
to
mean,
the
I'm
motion.
not trying to stir
Yeah.
things up, but if we got a
Let me clear
formula.
up my vote first.
I'm just looking at,
But both of
Yeah.
y'all were nay vote, correct?
Right.
Okay, so it was 5-2.
We did the
Excuse me,
whole
Mr.
count.
Outlaw.
Yeah,
Go
I,
ahead.
I was just
Well,
saying, go ahead, Fred.
Hold on, let me call on
All,
Wayne.
all I was saying was, I'm not trying to create controversy here, but we asked Ms. Boone for information to justify these increases, and she's provided that information. We just exerted that logic with the gateway, and we've got the logic provided on the library. It just seems to me that you can't go with one and not go with the other. And these other agencies that don't have any logic at all, they just arbitrarily ask for a number.
Yeah. Well, it reiterates my request that the board try to do something for a reason.
Exactly.
Okay. Ms. Barnes, you were next.
It's just not an endless well.
It just seems like we do this every year with the library, but if we get this formula down and they know, and the other two funding agencies know, then maybe we won't have to have this much conversation,
Agreed.
every time.
Can, Mr. Lamb, we ask you to make sure that the other two agencies fully understand what we done and know what consequences are if they don't do it? And then we need to make sure the other two agencies fully understand that there is a formula,
Yeah.
and that's what we'd like to use.
We'd like to go back
Go
to
back
that
to that
formula.
formula, that's
that
good.
has been
Exactly.
And I
developed.
assume you've got some set point in time where you establish these numbers, so it's not a moving target.
Well, it may even have to be a year in arrears. I
Just
don't- I
kind
don't
of like
know.
we did with the
Sure.
school system.
Mr. Belfield, you were trying to say something, I'm trying to get the ones that they were in order.
Oh, whatever
I forgot
that thought
what it
was, it's gone.
Okay, well, I apologize, but I'm trying to keep order. All right, the next item and the last item, on our, agenda, what did I do with my agenda? Outside funding agency discussion. And the discussion is along the United Community Ministries. We funded them last year at $30,000. It is requested, if I'm not mistaken, by a board member to add $10,000 to that and do it at $40,000. I asked a question, Mr. Belfield, last time we were together, which was Monday, what that was for, and you indicated it was for the,
The
Bassett Center.
Bassett Center,
Right.
where,
And
the
not the-
homeless families with children.
yeah, but
The federal, housing authority cut.
Got it.
In fact, they just cut it out,
Yeah.
period.
I
And we're trying to get private and public money to make up that loss.
okay. And I asked you about the homeless shelter, you stated
This
that
has
it
nothing to
wasn't
do
for
with
that.
that. This has nothing to do with the shelter.
Right, but thinking a little different from what you said, I inquired about it a little bit, and if you don't mind me, just make sure the board understands that the United Community Ministries includes both of those agencies, and it's only
It
one funding
does.
source.
It does.
So this money would go into a pool that includes both of those items and not one or the other. And I don't
Well,
think we
this-
had the latitude to designate those funds to one or the other
No.
because it's only one budget. I actually talked to,
The purpose of the asking for $10,000 for that.
that is your purpose for asking for.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that.
That's not saying that's where it's going.
Right.
I'm just saying that this is only one pool of money that funds both of those agencies, and there is a separate board that allots that money, which you may be a member of. Are you on that board?
It's only one board.
That's correct, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Are you on that board?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. But it is only one board that includes the homeless shelter as well as the Bassett Center. So just to clear that part up.
And the overwhelming majority of those board members are from Nash County.
Okay. All right, and
All right,
as just to state, like I have the other items, at the beginning, the board decided we were gonna do flat funding for all agencies, including nonprofits, and we have done that. Did we raise funding for any nonprofit at our retreat? I don't recall doing that. Which would,
The only ones that we talked about, not nonprofits, but the local libraries, the smaller libraries.
Yeah, $500.
yeah, we did give $500 to the local libraries, I do recall that, that's the only thing. Okay, Mr. Belfield, do you want to say any more about this, since it was your request?
Well, it's really needed. We have a lot of homeless families. In fact, you probably heard it in the, when we were meeting with the school system, they've identified over 500 and some kids that are homeless.
Right.
And this program is designed for those who are homeless. They don't just provide a place for them to stay. They have programs, they have counselors, and they work to try to get these people on their feet so that they either can be homeowners or renters of a home. So they don't just stay there and just wonder about. There are strict rules. And they do graduate. Some become homeowners, and some move out of there. And they're able to achieve enough income that they can rent or either buy a home. So we have a number of them that it's just not a place where you drop off and stay as long as you can stay, and then one on somewhere else. We have counselors there that work with these families.
All right.
Counselors on employment, counselors, social workers, and on family. And they work close with the school system too.
Okay. Whose stores are you aware that she has left and you
Yeah,
keep it there?
I'm taking minutes
Okay.
from here.
I just
She
wanted
had
to
an
make sure.
appointment.
Okay, fair enough.
I got it.
The one thing I didn't point out, and I apologize before we started, the funding breakdown is again on the back sheet, because we are all interested in how that works. United Community Ministry is about 2/3 way down the page. If you look at what the breakdown is on that, or in any discussions. Other comments?
I think it should be noted that the City of Rocky Mount has notified the United Community Ministries that their funding will remain the same. And
And now, where do you get that?
I'm
It's on that.
picking it up right up from the note, right up under the funding percentages. So, assuming that City of Rocky Mount and Edgecombe remain the same, and I haven't seen anything that would indicate otherwise, then with no justification for any funding formula here, we'll go from 54.55 to 61.54%. So was there a reason why Rocky Mount declined?
Well, I don't know, but I do know this, that Rocky Mount, from a utility standpoint, there's a break on utilities as part of their contribution to it.
Other comments? I would ask for direction from the board on what we do with this item. Mr. Bellfield, do you want to put it in the form of a motion? Or how do you want to handle it?
I would offer a motion that we give them the $10,000.
All right, is there a second to that motion? That motion fails for lack of a second, Mr.
Well,
Bellfield.
Mr. Chairman, then I go back to my half. I've been talking half. I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we give them instead of 10,005.
I'm almost inclined to call that motion out of order, but then it's a nonprofit, and I love you, Mr. Bellfield. I'm gonna accept that motion and say, is there a second to that motion?
And what are you saying, you? Excuse me.
30 to 35.
What Mr. Bellfield just did, because his first motion failed,
I know that.
he's
So
come
cut
back
from
instead of 10 to
5.
5, okay?
But I thought he said 10, so that's the reason.
No, 5.
No, he said cut it to 5. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion on the floor, is there a second? Is there any questions on the second motion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. That motion also fails. So that leaves the funding as it currently is. Any other item by a board member needs to be brought at this time? If you saw a earlier agenda that said we may talk about the airport and hangars, Mr. Outlaw and I discussed that, and we decided we could be better prepared on the 15th. We want to get some more information together, particularly on cost, And just to give you some thoughts to think about, it is, I think the board is inclined to want to move forward with this. It seems to be a need. I think some of the ways of getting this done is to possibly contact all of our funding agencies, see if they'd be willing to join together to fund these on some kind of formula that we'd probably have to derive at. I think the formula that we all already put money in the airport is in place. We could certainly do that, and everybody fund it, and it would be owned by the airport authority. We could solicit proposals, if legally, and I have to check this out, to have a private entity build those on land that the airport authority would provide for them to build them on and collect the lease on them, lease money on them. It'd be a private enterprise, and again, I have not talked to the attorney about that to see if it's even legal. Or the other alternative, of course, is, one other alternative is, if the other agencies do not wish to participate in it, and I'm just anticipating that they may not, because I know Tarver has their own hangars, Wilson has their own hangars, that Nash County could consider building and leasing them themselves if it's legal. So that's some ways we could look at it, but we intend to have more information available at our next meeting about that. Anything to add to that, Mr. Outlaw?
No, sir. I do think that it's going to be very important going forward that we do something to increase our visibility at the airport.
I think we kind of all, seem like we all agree with that. No other board member have a comment? Manager,
See you on Monday.
what are we doing Monday?
Monday week.
I mean, Monday week, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's a scheduled meeting, so I'd ask for a motion, and we have nothing in between. I can adjourn this meeting? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Combs, second by Ms. Wells. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Stand adjourned. Thank you.